you all so much for coming out today. My name is Sarah Colleague. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator here at the Great Falls Public Library. And as always, I'm thrilled to have you guys out here with us today. We are going to be talking about murdered and missing Indigenous peoples today, which is can be a difficult subject. So if at any point in time somebody needs to remove themselves from the room or sit in the back even further, please feel free to do so. This is a safe space. The library is always a safe space for everybody to come as they are. So thank you for being here with us today. In case of an emergency, the emergency stairs are at the back of the hallway here, so take a right out the doors and a right again, and then the stairs are there. They're also open at the end of the program in case anybody wanted to take those instead of waiting for our elevator. You're welcome to do that as well. So we are going to be talking with Jen Murphy here. I do believe a lot of folks in town or in this room know Jen, so thanks for being here. Jen came and spoke at the library back in October during our Indigenous Peoples Day celebrations, and we were so excited to have her as one of our storytellers for the Soup and Story held here at the library. And with such a powerful story, it was important to bring her back today, which is MMIP Day. So quick shout out to our sponsors. Thank you to the Great Falls Public Library Foundation, the YWCA-Great Falls, the Little Shell Tribe, and the Montana Arts Council for funding programming like this throughout the year. So thanks to all of them. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Jen so that she can
Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I'll just start with this short video. Oh, yes.
22-year-old Gabby Petito's homicide in Wyoming has captured national attention, and she is one of many who've gone missing in the state recently. At least 710 Indigenous people, mostly women and girls, went missing in the state between 2011 and 2020, and a vast majority of those are children. For more on those disappearances, I want to bring in Kelsey Vlamis. She is a breaking news reporter at Insider. Kelsey, welcome. So, Wyoming founded a missing and murdered Indigenous peoples task force. What was the reason for that?
Hi, Elaine. Thanks for having me. So the task force was founded in 2019, partially as a result from pressure from advocates who had said for a long time that this was an issue that was being under-resourced and not addressed. And so the governor founded the task force, and as a result of that task force, this report was put out in January that basically kind of laid out the extent of the problem. And what the report found was that 710 Indigenous people had gone missing from 2011 to 2020. 85% of those people were kids, 57% were female, so it was mostly girls affected. And it was happening in almost every county in the state. There have been reported kids, so it was really a statewide issue.
You know, I wonder, Kelsey, is this something that is unique to Wyoming, or do other Indigenous communities experience disproportionately higher disappearances and murders?
Yeah, so it's really not unique to Wyoming. Wyoming is just one state where this is happening, but I mean, even our federal government has established, in 2019, a presidential task force was established to address this all over the West and in Alaska, where American Indians and Native Alaskans are experiencing disappearances at higher rates than other groups. And so that task force was established in 2019, and then even earlier this year, Secretary of the Interior Deb Haaland established a specific unit within the Bureau of Indian Affairs to again look at this issue at a national level, because it's just been going on for so long. And the press release at the time from Haaland said that it's just been so underfunded that a lot of these cases remain unsolved because there's not resources being put towards them.
You know, Kelsey, I'm sure you've seen it as well. There's been a lot said about the inequality of media coverage. I wonder if you could talk about that a little bit and whether the report offers any insights or solutions.
Yeah, so there were quite a few findings. One of the biggest was that in Wyoming, at least this Wyoming report found that only 50% of homicide victims, 30% of Indigenous victims made the news in the case of homicides, whereas for white victims it was 51%. So it was a big disparity between Indigenous homicide victims and white homicide victims. And then the other thing that the report found is that the way that Indigenous victims were covered when their homicides were covered was very different. The homicides were often much more graphic, So there were graphic descriptions of either what the body looked like or what the actual cause of death was. And they were also more likely to paint Indigenous victims in a negative light. So it's a twofold issue. It's undercoverage, and then also just the way that coverage actually unfolds is very different.
So Kelsey, what was the reaction in Wyoming when that report was released? Because when you actually have data and you're looking at numbers, it's a very different thing than just kind of talking about something anecdotally.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think a lot of Indigenous communities and organizers almost felt vindicated in some way because it was an issue they had been sounding the alarm on for so long, but the state wasn't keeping track of the data. So I think in that way it was positive, but I think it's also just discouraging to see those numbers, face you. And as far as people who have been working towards this, and I've spoken with, even just this week, in light of the Gabby Petito case and this report being brought up again, a mother whose 2 of her daughters are unsolved homicides, an Indigenous mother. And I think for them it's also frustration because, they've been saying for so long, we know this is an issue and no one's helping us with it. So there's some vindication in the sense of we're glad to have the data, but we still just want more action to solving the issue.
Do they feel like things may be shifting, at least having the data in hand is a start? I mean, what else have these parents told you?
Yeah, it's definitely a very welcome change, and Secretary Holland has also been a very welcome change. They feel that there's real, for the first time versus, it's been going on for decades. They've been sounding the alarm on this, and for the first time in that time, they feel like there is attention going towards it. And so it's very welcome change. They're really just hoping that the task force in Wyoming and on the national level, and reports like these and improvement in data also translates to results.
All right, Kelsey Lamas.
So I like to show that. Holy cow, that scared me because I forgot I had my gun. I like to show that because when Gabby Petito went missing, I always use her as an example. She was looked for really well. That was a really good search, all the different things. And I'd always use that as an example when I was talking about MMIP. And I ended up watching this documentary one night on Gabby Petito. And at the very end, there was a lady of color interviewing her parents, and she said, well, what about all the Native women that went missing in this exact same time period? And they said, initially I was really mad they brought race into the issue until I looked into it. And now they're huge advocates for MMIP and being able to say all people should be looked for the same. So there was a time when I started out this presentation, and it did start for me with Jermaine, but really when I started to think about that wasn't true. It started with colonization, it started with boarding schools, it started with our ancestors, and started with my own trauma that I had to face and acknowledge. But on June 16, 2018, when Jermaine Charlo went missing, I lived in Missoula at the time, and it was just an interesting experience watching how that case was handled. I worked as a parole officer at the time, and kind of just seeing the delay. They always talk about those first 48 hours being really, really important, and they have some good people there, but they kind of missed the mark. One went on vacation type of thing, and then but by then it was 7 to 10 days later. I always think about what it might have looked like if things would have happened a little quicker. But I started in that time to think about what is something that I could do, that a skill set that I had, or something that I could do, to bring attention to this issue, because what I found was a lot of people were still like, well, what is this issue? I don't really understand. Even in Montana, which I was like, that's interesting. But I started to think about how I've always been a self-taught photographer. I didn't have any special schooling. But what I can tell you is that I'm relentless. Jordan can attest to that. When I decide something, it's just I don't know how to do it, but I'm gonna stumble through and figure it out. And so I put out as we do nowadays, put out a thing on social media and said, hey, I have this idea, and I'm just hoping that maybe possibly there's some Indigenous people like myself that really want to bring awareness to this issue. Would anybody be willing to have the red handprint put on their face and photographed and just bring that awareness piece? And I had quite a few people respond and say, yes, that would be great. Let's do that. And the first one was November 7th, 2020, COVID. I just don't want to activate anybody. But we had it all figured out, mask, sanitizer, all the things, social distancing. And when the day came, I think 3 or 4 people showed up, which was still 3 or 4 people, but I also started down that, I don't know, the thing that we do to ourselves, and we're like, well, maybe this is a dumb idea. Maybe I'm not the right person. Maybe this is just not going to work, and just kind of down that rabbit hole. And I started looking at the photos that I took, and I came across one in particular, and it kind of reminded me of my ancestors looking at me like, really? You're going to doubt this? And I looked at it and I thought, okay, I hear you. Okay, Creator. And it was kind of that push to just keep going. And so I put out another Facebook post. And I said, hey, let's try this again. And the first hour, again, no one came. And I was like, okay, well, I tried. And I looked at the gal that was with me and I said, how long do I wait? And she's like, as long as it takes. I'm like, okay, wow. And about an hour into it, so many people started coming that I started to get a bit overwhelmed because it wasn't just, I wasn't looking for models, right? Like I was looking for people that could explain why this issue meant something to them. Like, tell me why you want to be photographed. Like, this isn't a photo shoot. This is a real issue that our people face. And there was a lot of crying, a lot of, which is really hard actually to take a photo when you're crying. But anyway, this one little girl, oh my God, she was so intense. She's like, I'm standing here for my people. And she was just, had no fear at all. So went through this day, took a lot of, really good photos. But even then, I remember thinking, as I was looking at these, like, well, what am I going to do with them? Like, these are powerful photos, but they're not really feel-good photos. They're representing an issue that's, like, intense, and it's real, and it's stuff that's impacted our families. Fast forward, this picture is now at the University of Montana in its permanent collection, so everybody that comes into the University of Montana gets to look at this photo. It's right in their face, and they get to talk about the issues, so I absolutely love that. Didn't know that would happen. So as I'm figuring this out, I was trying to think of something that people had to see that they could not see, and I thought, well, what about billboards? Billboards are in your face. People cannot not see those when you're driving on the highway. But then I'm like, I don't know how to get a billboard. So I Googled it. How do you get a billboard? And the first people that popped up was Lamar. And I called them up and I said, I don't know how to get a billboard. I don't have any money. And I just have this idea. And they were so cool. They were just like, okay, well, let's figure it out. This is a great idea. And I was like, oh, okay. Let's do this. And then March 23rd, 2021, the first billboard went up in Missoula. Trying to figure out messaging is always really hard because you want to be able to say something in very little words that you can read at 80 miles an hour, right? So that was the first one. Many followed. That photo shoot in particular was up in Polson. We had a drum group and they were dancing. This is a little shell number here. I'm pausing on purpose because these billboards don't need a lot of narrative. It's more about creating that visceral experience. Those are my cousins. So I kind of thought that was it, you know, like let's create this visceral awareness project. But what happened was a lot bigger than I could have envisioned, I guess. I think that's one of the big things about when you know an issue needs attention and you lean in and it's not about you, the doors just start to open, like just crazy open where you're like, okay, I don't know that I'm qualified for any of this. But creator works in interesting ways. So I use these photos a lot now for a lot of resiliency teachings that I do with a therapist out of Missoula. My husband and I started a training business. We do both domestic violence and MMIP awareness. A lot of art opportunities, being able to take these pictures places and be able to display them. Especially, that was the Dallas Love Airport, and I thought that was pretty cool because everybody going through was like, okay, what's this? And there were so many people calling after that, like, can you tell me more about this? And I'm like, this is exactly what I need to happen. Something really cool that I've been doing with youth is, not this year, but last year we did a big poster contest in Butte, because that's where I'm at. And what was really cool about this poster contest was, I think I had 70 submissions from 8th graders and only 6 were Native. And what I liked about that was I made them answer questions on the back. What do you know about MMIP? How can you keep your friends safe? What would you do if you saw something happening? And their answers were just like incredibly powerful. And they were so mad that this was happening and they had never heard about it. And I'm like, wow, that's just in Montana. Like, these kiddos need to be educated. This was at the Native Project in Spokane, Washington. They heard about it and it's just kind of like starting to move out of Montana, which is nice. And getting the ball rolling on talking about it. Weird things like the Missoula Fair. You know, like, hey, you should think about putting stuff there. And I'm like, okay, but this isn't just a picture. I have to be able to explain that. This is so much bigger than that. 48 hours coming out to Missoula, and we did a deep dive on Jermaine's case. These guys were crazy. This photo was done when 48 Hours was out in Missoula, and they photographed her in the alley where Jermaine last was seen. So we did a whole ceremony, did a lot of prayer, a lot of crying, but as you can see, I mean, you could almost like feel that photo. 2, the children's book that some of you may have. There's a couple left back on if you can have them, but what I noticed as I was going through this work, kind of with that poster contest even, a lot of our youth they're not talked to about this issue at a young age. People are scared to talk about the issue, they don't know what to say, they're afraid. So I'm like, well, how do you write a book? I mean, I'm no one special. I just happen to be someone, like I said earlier, that's just relentless, where I'm just like, well, I don't know how to do it, but I'm gonna figure it out, and I fall flat on my face all the time. But I refuse to give up. So this book has a lesson plan that goes with it through the Office of Public Instruction, Indian Education for All. So they're able to talk to our youth in a way that is meaningful and not scary. This was one I almost missed because I thought it was spam email. And the NFL sent me an email and they said, hey, we'd really like to represent this issue on Cleats for Cause. I had no idea what that was, and I told my husband, I'm like, oh, this guy named Dylan Cook emailed me, and he goes, oh yeah, he's from Butte. And I go, what? He's a real person? And he's like, yeah. He's like, he's a Pittsburgh Steeler, which I forgave him because I'm a Rams fan. But that's Dylan with the shoes. And he wore them and raised awareness for the nonprofit. So that was really neat. To film, which I'll show you guys the film here later tonight, but we had a director who was in Butte. She was there with her husband and they were filming 1923 in Butte, and they saw a billboard. And the billboard was like some of the examples that I showed you. And she called me up and she's like, can you tell me more about this issue? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, I kind of heard about it, but not really. And so we went to dinner and she said, well, what would it be like to make a short film about it? And I said, I don't know, I'm not in film. And she's like, well, I am. And I said, okay. And it was just like the craziest. She goes, okay, well, I'll get a hold of you. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm sure you will. And 3 months later, she called and we shot a short film on MMIW. And it's been around the United States to film festivals, won a bunch of awards, and we're hoping eventually that we'll make enough money to do a full feature film. One of my most held, special, sacred places right now is working with families. Now that, moving kind of from just general awareness to specific cases. This is a shoot that was in Browning, and that's my husband who needed a haircut at the time. But he said, well, isn't this an interesting photo? The white man putting a rip, and he just called himself out. He's like, because he was helping me, and I said, this is a perfect photo to show people, This was up and running, like I said, but moving through these specific cases. I mean, these kids, I swear. That's Chris, a heavy runner. Her daughter was Michael Westwolf. Madison Miller's case is still ongoing. That's Leo Wagner's twin sister. Andrew Oldperson. Arden Papillon. And this was Gabriel Kaff-Bothrop's family. Hi, fish. And you can see holding space in these scenarios is a lot different than just taking a photo. There's a lot of emotion. But then being able to bring these families and get them on a billboard and be able to say, look, this is my family. This is my family member's name. It's Jermaine's aunt. But we're dramatic pause.
My name is Belinda Morshow. I come from the Salish and Kootenai tribe. I am enrolled Blackfeet, and I am a Jermaine Santee.
As law enforcement continues to search for missing Native American Jermaine Charlo. 3 years since Jermaine Charlo went missing.
So June 16, 2018, Jermaine Charlo went missing out of Missoula. She's an enrolled member of the Salish and Kootenai tribe. When she went missing locally, it just struck differently. I tried to help search, and I was trying to figure out what I could do to help And the only thing I could come up with, well, I've always loved to take photos.
Her and I used to spend a lot of time together. Our favorite thing to do was go fishing down on the Flathead River. She loved being outdoors. She loved helping my grandpa go out and feed cows. Jermaine this year would have been 27 years old.
Hi, well, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jermaine. This is now going to be my vlog about me.
So I literally just put out a group on Facebook and was like, hey, would anybody be interested in raising awareness for murdered missing Indigenous women, so I can just photograph you with a handprint on your face. And about 45 minutes into it, people started coming and they started telling me their stories. You can feel their message just through their face. It was crazy.
In visiting with Jen, I can feel the passion she has for this project. And she truly wants to find a way to make a difference. I have personal experience in that 2 close friends from high school's aunt went missing, and she was an Indigenous person. Lamar has donated billboards in that area in South Dakota to help bring justice to her. And basically, what I want to do is be a part of that here, and definitely try to make a difference for anybody who's missing. As a mom of 2 little girls, if my children went missing, I would want to make sure that their face was plastered everywhere all across the country to be found as quickly as possible.
Lamar's been great, and they from the very beginning when I'm like calling them up going, I don't know what a billboard costs, they were just like, we're in. Being able to, go from this small idea in my head to billboards across Montana and now nationally and being covered on national news, it's very empowering.
If you look at it 5 years ago, nobody knew what MMIW was, and bringing attention to MMIW on like a national scale is huge, because the more people that know about it, I feel like we're one step closer to resolving this issue. And if I could bring attention to Jermaine, then we can also bring attention to all of these other women that are missing. If anybody can take away anything from this, it's never to give up hope.
So, one of the most important parts of this whole thing is just being a voice for the voiceless. So, it's okay with you guys. If you want to stand, you can. If you don't, that's okay too. I know that some people have physical issues, but I'm going to just go through and read through. As of this morning, there's 42 individuals here in Montana missing, 4 missing less than a year, and 28 missing more than a year. So I'm going to do that now. Blaze Brady, Justine Haley, Charmaine Ewing, Roland Plainfeather, Paige Slowbear, Brooklyn Bullcalf, Walking Woman, Black Horse, Jasmine Kennedy, Colt LaPlante, Sheldon Armstrong, Ronnie Cadotte, Virginia Smith, Crystal Highwalker, Cameron Belcourt, Dale Kindness, Judith No-Runner, Pamela Phillips, Daniel Oldbull, Pernell Dion, Sawad birding round. Robert Yarlott. Keisha Bear. Jesse Johnson. Randolph Plentyhawk. Leo Wagner. Arden Pepion. Camille Samuels. Diane Medicine Horse. Levi Yellow Mule. Hub Williamson. Richard Roasting Stick. Robert Alexander. Shakaya Blue Harding. Jermaine Charlo. Ashley Loring. Frida Knows His Gun. James Limberhand. Robert Stewart. John Reamer. Jody Howard. Amy Johnson. And Malene Hodamine. If anybody else wants to speak a name, you're welcome to do so now. Thank you, guys. So this list was of March 25th, listed from youngest to oldest. There's also a graph of just age. Now I'm going to show you guys that 9-minute film.
Hello to you too. Want to fill me in?
They wanted to suspend me, so I quit.
Suspended? Slow down, my girl. You just got back on the team.
It wasn't my fault.
Okay. So after they suspended you, you decided to quit?
Andy, I don't want to play anymore.
Olivia, it's so good for you to be back out there with the girls.
Yeah, well, I changed my mind.
You do have to go apologize to Coach. You're not leaving like this. We're not leaving until you do. And I have to work soon, so come on. Get going.
It's okay. I know. Take as much time as you need.
Cheap shot. Happy too fair and square, little bird. Don't worry. He'll catch up to me one day. That's a good shot.
I think I deserve a night off for once. You still like my fried chili?
Yeah, it's okay.
All right then.
So I'm just gonna end with a poem that I wrote that I've never shared before, so you'll have to be a little patient with me as well. But I think that it's worth sharing, so it's called The Edge. I don't say this out loud often. It sits behind my ribs like something that learned how to survive by staying quiet. There was a moment, a thin blue line, some might say, between being here and being a name on a flyer, a face painted in red, a story told in the past tense. I felt it, not as a headline, but as a breath leaving too fast, as instincts screaming louder than words, as the sudden knowing that I could disappear and the world might take too long to notice. This is the part of the story I don't share because it's heavy, because it's personal, because saying it out loud makes it real in a way that silence almost softens. But silence is how we lose each other. So I carry it in my work, not as a badge, not as something center, but as a quiet fire that refuses to go out, relentless pursuit. I speak for the people who didn't get the second moment I did, who didn't get to step back and realize how close the edge was. I speak for those who didn't get to choose to keep breathing. And I speak as someone who almost didn't get that chance. That almost is not small, it's everything. And this is why my voice shakes sometimes, why certain stories stay lodged in my throat, why I choose my words carefully, because I know how quickly a story can become a statistic. Even now, it's hard to say, even now, even here. But it matters, because this work isn't just advocacy, it's memory, it's warning, it's survival spoken into open so someone might recognize the moment and make it back. I am still here, and that truth is both a gift and a responsibility I carry for those who should be. Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thanks. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, any questions? Welcome to try and answer them.
No? Well, thank you, everybody. Yeah, you had your hand.
I have a very personal question for everyone in this room. I don't know if you've been a part of, I've traveled a lot for my former job, a lot, and I was in Missoula a lot when the awards started to happen, and thank you for that, and using that awareness. I also helped share on social media, but what was scary is when I was traveling, there was a lack of communication, it seems, within the law enforcement agencies, even though there is a communication. But so I would be in the hotel room late at night and I'm watching the news. It was really late where it's a rerun. And there was reports of a body being found in a black garbage sack in view. And then it was constant. And it was in town after town. And I don't understand why more people aren't talking about that and piecing it together. It's more than just a trafficker, there's a serial killer. Is that the case? And why aren't we talking about it as news agencies coming together and telling that story? When I tried to be a whistleblower on Epstein's accountant was camping at Black Peak River and that letter is very much in the records. And he was here to buy a ambulance. So why can't we change the laws? Because what greater way than to take our family members than through an ambulance across state lines? You know, because you work in law enforcement, how easy, you just kind of turn a blind eye to an ambulance, you don't think twice about it. And here they're buying an ambulance from us. For what reason? Was it to cross over the border without being stopped, without being looked at? So I'm just wondering if you hear of any of these stories along your journey, and how do we bring them together so that way people can start really piecing it together and diving into a very gruesome thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge disconnect with law enforcement, but they're working on it. I don't think that they're near where they need to be, but I also think that they know that there's jurisdictional issues, and there are people that do want to really work on that piece. But I keep telling them, don't wait till crisis happens. Start getting to know each other when there's not crisis.
Yeah.
To build that trust, because with our people, it's not just we're just not gonna trust you right away. That's built, it's a community. So I think, they know that there's a problem. I think it's still muddling through. I haven't heard of the ambulance thing or anything else, but it wouldn't surprise me.
It was fun seeing one of my friends on the film. I shot a film with her, so
Oh,
it was
nice.
fun. Let's see her on there. She's a good gal.
Great.
She's a good gal to be part of.
Did you have a question?
I was wondering, what tribe were you from?
Rocky Boy. Chippewa-Cree. That's a good question.
Do you think the cartel or any other gangs are a part of this?
I think that the cartel is on every reservation.
Yes.
Absolutely, 100%.
I do too.
Yeah.
Another question, your statistics that you had in Wyoming, were those just ones that were missing from Native American reservations? Or was it from the whole state of Wyoming that were Native American?
I think it was the whole state of Wyoming, and that was a while back. But I just love how they kind of went into the topic and dove in there, so. But I think it was all of Wyoming. Good questions.
Just kind of a comment. I'm always surprised that people don't know what MMIP is also. I remember Michelle was talking about getting a website together, and we were kicking around names. And I even reached out to some girlfriends, because they're like my think tank, I call them, as a joke. But I'm like, hey, what would be a good name for Montana MMIP website? And two of them said, what's MMIP? And I'm kind of blown away, because these are the smart, savvy women.
Well, and I think too, like I was talking with Jordan earlier, if people cared about our lives as much as they say they do, this room right now would be packed full. It'd be standing only. That's just the reality of it. So, I'm not afraid to say that. I'm just if our lives mattered as much as you say they do, where are you? So.
Well, today's presentation has been recorded, so share it with folks. Share it widely so that next time this room is full. I only heard about MMIP maybe even only 4 years ago. And it comes out through slow conversations and information. It's hard. But that's why we're having the conversation today. All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming out.
Guys.
Thank you, Jen, for traveling up here. We always have more programming going on at the library. Our next program is on Thursday. It's part of our Armchair Traveler series. We're traveling to the Galapagos Islands. And I'm going to make potato pancakes of some sort, so best of luck. And it's with the Duff family. One of their kiddos really just wants to talk about blue-footed boobies the whole time, so I'm really excited about that. But join us for that and any of our other conversations that we have here. Thank you again for coming out. Grab a snack on your way, because there's still a lot left. So thanks, everybody.